YouTube! Welcome back. Today is tRicK MiRRor episode 7. I think this is one of the last ones. How many are left? Yeah, I think there's only 2 left after this. Alright, so this week's chapter is We Come From Old Virginia, and in it, Gia Tolentino covers Greek life and its connection to sexual assault on college campuses. Personally, I had kind of a hard time breaking down this essay, partially because I was unfamiliar with the cases from UVA's campus, but also because she kind of starts out with this story of a false accusation, which definitely felt like an intentional choice, and by the end of the essay it does become clear why she made that, but personally it was a little off-putting to start there, particularly because in the very beginning you're led to believe that it was a true accusation, so then by the time you realize it was actually false, it just feels like your entire world is crumbling, and it's like, oh, like I don't know if that is the right place to be starting out with. I do think that in doing so though, she definitely is able to flip the script on our view of false accusations, which I think is also important because I feel like there's this instinct, like when you hear about a false accusation, to just remove all the context from it, and I think Gia very successfully puts the context back in. I think what Gia also did really successfully was reflecting on her personal experience with sexual harassment and how she felt like she kept negating her own experiences with it. On page 200, she writes, "I felt almost disembodied by dread in my office chair, thinking about how many women would read the piece and feel the need to compare their stories to Jackie's, to play down the harm they'd faced, to preface their own experiences, as we already do, with, 'It wasn't that bad.'" I also felt like in this essay, compared to others, she definitely made the tie with how this is a form of self-delusion a lot stronger. On page 207, when she's talking about the story that was put out in Rolling Stone about Jackie's false accusation, she writes, "In this, Erdely replicated the mechanism of self-delusion that's embedded at UVA. She acted as if the story she believed in, that she thought she was working for, was already real. Good intentions often produce blind spots." Oh, and then on page 210, she writes about an interview with Erdely. "Were you being sincere then, when you wrote those words? Did you believe the statement when you wrote it?" the lawyer asks. Erdely says yes. But the choice is not always between being sincere and untruthful. It's possible to be both. It's possible to be sincere and deluded. It's possible, it's very easy in some cases, to believe a statement, a story, that's a lie. And even though I wasn't really familiar with UVA's campus culture when I went into this essay, I do feel like Gia did give a lot of really good background on both how the campus is now and also its history. On page 226, she writes, "College towns, which turn over their population every 4 years, are suffused with a unique and possibly necessary sort of amnesia. If you know the history, you have to remake it, or at least believe that remaking it is possible. You have to believe that there is a reason you are there now, not the people who got it all so wrong before. More likely, though, you feel like you're the only person who's ever stepped on campus. Most likely, you have no tangible sense of historical wrongdoing. The ugliness, the trauma of UVA's past half-decade is related to how intensely and consistently the school has tried to suppress the idea that it could ever be ugly or traumatic." Okay, and then this was another point that she kind of makes tangentially, but I thought resonated so much. So this is on page 229. She writes, "No crime is confounding and punitive the way rape is. No other violent offense comes with a built-in alibi that can instantly exonerate the criminal and place responsibility on the victim. There is no glorified interpersonal behavior that can be used to explain robbery or murder the way that sex can be used to explain rape. The best case scenario for a rape victim in terms of adjudication is the worst case scenario in terms of experience. For people to believe you deserve justice, you have to be destroyed. I've begun to think that there is no room for writing about sexual assault that relies on any sense of anomaly. The truth about rape is that it's not exceptional. It's not anomalous. And there is no way to make that into a satisfying story." The ending on this essay was actually probably one of my favorite endings in this book, and it kind of relates to the quote that I just read. She writes, "I wish I had known, then in the Peace Corps or in college, that the story didn't need to be clean, and it didn't need to be satisfying. that in fact it would never be clean or satisfying, and once I realized that, I would be able to see what was true. This was definitely a really challenging essay to read, but I think Gia did a really good job tying in a lot of different experiences from her life and from the communities that she was a part of in her life. And like, you do leave the essay unsatisfied, but that's like definitely the point of the essay. Like, these stories are largely unsatisfying, and that's what we need to get used to in order to prevent encouraging false accusation stories that exaggerate and inflame what actually happened. And yeah, I mean, those are pretty much the parts that stood out to me. I would love to hear what stood out to you in the comments below or in the Goodreads discussion. Next week's essay is called The Cult of the Difficult Woman. I haven't started reading this one yet, so I have no idea what it's about, but when you're done reading it, also leave a comment down below or at the Goodreads page with any questions or comments you might have, and I will include them in next week's video. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!